So I think that Sinners getting the most nominations of all time in the history of the Oscars is a great thing for cinema, and more than that, I think that F1 getting a nod for potential Best Film Oscar is an excellent sign of what the Oscars need to become. So let me give you, I guess, my thesis on what I'm trying to say here, and then we'll get into the weeds of why I think it's so great. So I think that the function of the Oscars, not just the Oscars, the Grammys, or any major award show, should be that it tells the story of the impact of the biggest movies of those different generations, of those different years. So if somebody was to look back at the history books of best movies, you're looking at like, okay, what was the culturally defining film of that year? I think that too often, I'm getting to the meat and potatoes of it now, I think that too often the Oscars are just, they have Oscar movies, right? These movies which are not fan service but critic service. They make the entire movie trying to get Oscar nods. Like that's the whole function of it. It's, whether it be overly artsy or whatever it wants to be, overly contemporary, the whole function of the movie is that, okay, this is going to be something that gets a nod from a critic. And as a superhero fan, but not just being a superhero fan, just as a fan of cinema overall, I've always felt that with these major award shows, they should tell a story of what got people hyped throughout the year. So when you look back at those years, you're like, oh yes, of course, that was the moment, right? And I'm not saying that it all should be just purely driven upon hype. Like, for example, a couple of years ago when Oppenheimer came out, that was both an excellent film, but the Barbie Oppenheimer kind of hype cycle, it took it to another level, right? So I'm saying there is obviously a medium to meet, but I think there's some great signs on what we're seeing right now, right? So Sinners was a good movie. Okay, do I think it was the best movie of the year? Honestly, no. But I enjoyed the movie. It's a fun watch. I probably would lean Marty Supreme this year. I just loved Timothy Chalamet's performance in it. I just loved how chaotic the movie was. It was just like oddly comforting for my ADHD brain. I loved it. But it's a great story, and like as I was saying about F1 getting nominated, why that makes me feel good, because it was a really fun watch, right? Normal people watch movies too. It's not just like artsy critics. The majority of people who go to the cinema are just like normal people who just want to have fun. And movies like F1, or kind of a lot of the recent Brad Pitt movies like Bullet Train a couple of years ago, they're just fun watches, and everybody walks out saying, yeah, I loved that, it was great. Maybe it doesn't start a massive debate politically or socially, or it doesn't really get you to pull your heartstrings. But if it was a fun movie and loads of people enjoyed it and it captivated the audience, and and it was kind of pushing the needle in a sense. F1, it did a lot of things first. The shots of the actual racing, they drove the cars in real life. They had real life companies sponsor a fake F1 team to help fight. Like there was so many cool little bits and pieces within the movie which made F1 such a great movie. Soundtrack was excellent too, that obviously helps. But kind of my overall point is, it's okay to have fun movies be regarded as great movies. It doesn't have to be complicated to be good. And I think that in other industries that's been an accepted trait. I mean, in food, that's an accepted trait. Simple food can be really good and can be considered excellent and get Michelin stars because it's excellent. It doesn't have to be a million components, right? And I wish movies did it more often, because we look back at the history books and I'm gonna pull it up here right now, right? So I'm gonna go through the list of the last few films who won Best Picture: Anora, Oppenheimer, Everything Everywhere All at Once, Coda, Nomadland, Parasite, Green Book, Shape of Water. There was some big Moonlight, obviously. Were there some great era defining films in there? Sure. But honestly, a lot of them, you're dude, there was generational films that came out at the same time, right? Anyways, those are the list of names, but ultimately what I'm trying to make out is that a lot of those films, as great as they were, they aren't the film you remember when you think of that year. I feel like a good example would be 2021 with Coda. It's a good film, sure. But honestly, will I remember it as much as I remember King Richard? No. Or Dune? No. It's a good movie, yeah, and it's not even just I'm saying, oh, okay, the higher grossing movie should always win, because then in 2019, in 2018, where Green Book win, that should have been the year of Infinity War. Now I think Infinity War is one of the best Marvel movies of all time, but I don't think it's better than Green Book, and I also think that Green Book was more impactful in certain ways, fan than Infinity War. That being said, when you look back at it, I think that it's almost hard to believe that there's been no superhero movie ever to win Best Movie, when for so many of those years they were by far the biggest impact, biggest grossing movies, and they did have impact, right? Like, it captivated audience. It started a whole shift in culture on how we view nerd culture and geeky culture. I think that, going back to my overall thesis of this video, is that the Oscars should serve as a history book, that somebody in 30 years time can read the book of the 2000s, 2010s, 90s and look at these best pictures and be able to see what was super cool at that time, right? They could talk to their parents like, oh, do you remember when this movie came out? I don't know. I feel like that's kind of how it should be. I don't feel like that's overly a hot take. I think that's a pretty common take, but that's why I feel like Sinners getting these nominations, F1 being nominated, it's a great sign. And I'm so glad that Monty Supreme is getting the love that it did, because I was nervous from a critic's perspective and Timothée Chalamet's perspective, and Timothée Chalamet, his persona, that was going to play against him. But I'm glad that it's not playing against him. I'm glad that it's not getting overly political about it. So I think it's a good thing. A lot of people are talking about Sinners getting all these nominations like it's a bad thing. Like, how could that be the movie what breaks the records when it isn't as good as some other movies? I agree with that. But dude, just be glad that we're not just having to sit through some artsy list of nominations, that we look at it seriously. No one's gonna even remember this movie in a few years. Anyways, that is my spiel. If anybody liked it or enjoyed it, please subscribe. Thank you.